Hey guys, this is Pink Panther from F3 Jacksonville, and I'm the creator of the QSmart system. Just wanted to give you an overview of what the system is, how it works, etc., for those that are looking at implementing it into their region. And so I want to answer a few questions. One, kind of what is QSmart? Two, how can it benefit my region? Three, a little bit about how it works and how do I install it. I'm going to try to keep this video as short as possible, but I also want to go into enough detail where you as the Nantan or IT guy can kind of take a look at it and say, hey, I think this is something we want, or kind of make your own decision. So first, kind of what is it? So QSmart is a complete solution to queue scheduling for a given region. And so we've been using it in Jacksonville since September 2021. And it started with a prototype that I basically built from the ground up. We were using another kind of off-the-shelf program that really was not meant for what we were using it for. Didn't really work great, and so packs were not signing up for queues, and some packs couldn't even navigate it, and so we kind of needed a better solution. And so I started playing around with the Google form, and it led me to a prototype. Then Bada Bing asked me, "Hey, can you demo this for the region? This is pretty cool." I did a webinar about a month and a half ago, and several people wanted their hands on it. So I went back to the development dashboard and really made a lot of improvements to the system, made it a lot easier to use from the back end standpoint. It was already very easy to use from the front end, but kind of streamlined the install process, added a ton of new features, and that's kind of where we are today. So since September of 2021, Jacksonville's been running the system, and it's been running flawlessly. We've seen nothing but positive feedback from it. It's very clear, very easy to use, and I think it's only going to get more so that way with these new features. So basically, the system from a technical standpoint is a Google Sheet that has a Google Form tied to it, has Google Scripts tied to it, a Google Calendar tied to it, and then a Slack app that's also tied to it. And the Slack app is the most recent addition. I'm pretty excited about that. I'm going to go over each of these in a little bit more detail. Again, trying to keep this video as short as possible. So let's take a look at the QSmart control panel. So when you get the system, if you were to install the system, this is what you would see when you first open the Google Sheet. And I've made the install process super simple. So all you need to do is plug your region information in this box here, and then press the install button. And secondly, you will go to the weekly AOs page, and then let me get to the top here, and then plug in your information here. It's pretty simple: AO name plus location, start time, duration, address, etc. I'm not going to go through this in a lot of detail, but I will say that the system supports weekly AOs, that you can see here, Monday through Sunday. And then it also supports non-weekly AOs, like week AOs that are every other Tuesday, or the first Thursday of the month, or the first and third Thursday of the month, etc. So all of this is covered in my installation guide that I made for the system. It's really easy to kind of follow and understand, and all that's there. But suffice it to say, the system can cover weekly and non-weekly AOs. And the installation process is super simple, because all you have to do is plug in this information here, plug in your AO information. The system automatically creates a calendar for you. It automatically creates a form for you. It gets the links to all those, gets them ready for you so you can implement it in your website. So let's take a look at the Google form here. So this is linked directly on our website. So if you go to f3jax.com, you'll see it linked here, sign up to queue, and then boom, you're at our live Google form. And if a PAX wants to sign up to queue, all he has to do is fill in his email address, his F3 name, and then pick an AO to queue. So if I wanted to queue pool party on Monday, 7/4, July 4th, I would click this and then click the submit button down here. But I want to point out a few things before we leave here, because I want to contrast this with the traditional Google form versus the one I've developed here, because I've had to use a lot of scripting in order to make this happen. And so let's take a look at Saturday 7/2. So Saturday 7/2, you can see all the taken AOs are here at the top, and they're not selectable. They're not an option like the crossing is. The crossing is open, and so therefore I can select it and choose to queue that option. But these AOs up here, I cannot. Contrasted with this next Saturday, if you look here, Boondocks is the only AO taken, but all of these are selectable. So what happens is if I were to select Asgard right now and click submit, Asgard in about 30 seconds would be taken away from that form as an option and would be put up here by Boondocks like all these other AOs up here are. And so that's really important because two packs can't queue the same AO. This system prevents them from doing that. The other thing I wanted to mention is cancellations. So to cancel a queue is super easy. Basically what you do is you fill in the same information up here, email and F3 name, and then you click cancel queue on the day that you want to cancel. So if I was Feud as an example here, Feud took Asgard. So you see AO name plus queue name. So if I was Feud and I wanted to cancel my queue for today, which is Saturday 7/2, I would click cancel queue, go down submit, and that would cancel my queue only. So what the scripts do is they look for an email address and they cancel all queues on that day for that email address. So if I'm Feud and I'm canceling, I'm not affecting B&B, I'm not affecting Pruntang, Bert, etc. I'm only affecting my queue, and I'm only affecting it for that particular day. So there's no crossover. One pack can't cancel another pack's queue, etc. It's pretty idiot proof. So before we leave the forum, I just wanted to mention, as you can see here, there's about 30 days listed from 7/2 all the way to 8/2. So the way the system works is it has a list of 30 AO days, I'll call them, that are propagated across the forum and the calendar. And so in the sheet here on the weekly AOs tab, there is a list of 30 days that is shown on, this is more back-end stuff that you don't have to worry about, but there's a list of 30 days that is selected and shown on the Google form. And the same thing on the calendar, what happens is only 30 days of appointments are created. So what happens on the next day, so when this rolls over, tomorrow, 8/3 will be shown, and then this day, which tomorrow will be yesterday, will drop off. So the system's constantly updating and keeping a list of 30 days that just keeps moving one day forward each time. So you don't actually have to do anything to update it. And that's a general overview of the form. Let's talk a little bit about the Google Calendar. So as I mentioned earlier, it was linked on our website. So if I, again, just go to F3Jax and go to workout locations, you will see that it is right here. And this is just a Google Calendar embed. It's really simple. You can, if you know anything about IT, you can make this big, small, you can make it a list, you can make it a month view, week view, etc. You can do a lot with this. So this is very versatile. And one reason I chose Google Calendars is because it's so versatile. But I'm going to make it full screen here just so it's easy to see in the video. And let's take a look at what the system does with an open AO versus a taken AO. So Chop Shop here is open. So if I click on it, I have a lot of information. I'm presented as a PAX, and if I'm a PAX looking to take this AO, I have a lot of information here. So first of all, I have the name of the AO, which is Chop Shop, and then I have it's open. That's directly in the name of the event. So that tells me right away, hey, this one's up for grabs. Secondly, I have the time, the address, which is pulled from the weekly AO sheet or non-weekly AO sheet from the sheet I showed you earlier. And then the form link. So this actually, it says click here to queue this AO. This is actually a pre-filled form link that will take you to the form, but we'll have that option already selected. So all you would have to do is enter your email address and your F3 name, and then you would scroll down and that option would already be selected. So you can actually skip that, just press submit. So that was a pretty cool little addition there. Let's compare that to an AO that's currently taken. So Thunderdome on 7/5 is taken by Mr. Magoo. And again, the same information is presented before. The name in this case is the queue name, time, address, and in this case, we've removed the pre-filled form link that we talked about a second ago because this one's not up for grabs anymore, and we've added the queue as an attendee to the meeting, and he's actually been invited. And one thing I just wanted to mention here is that this calendar, the system will create its own calendar on your Google account, and it needs its own calendar. So don't try to mix it with any other calendars. And I put this all in the documentation, so don't have to worry about it here, but just wanted to mention that. And so let's take a look at this a second, because I want to show you the contiguity behind the system. So Thunderdome is taken on 7.5 by Mr. Magoo. So let's go back to the form we were just at a minute ago. And we go to 7.5 and you see Mr. Magoo took Thunderdome. And so there's the contiguity when a PAX reserves an AO on the form, it propagates to the calendar. And then if I go to the website and look at 7.5, you see Mr. Magoo took Thunderdome. So now I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about the Slack app. This is probably the most exciting part of the system for me. It's the one I developed more recently, and I think it's going to be a big hit. So here is the Slack app. This is just in our F3 Jax Slack. And one thing I want to mention before I talk about the app here is that this app is just another way of connecting with QSmart. So it runs on the same database. It connects to the same Google Sheet. In fact, the back end for the app is actually on your Slack. On your Google Sheet scripts page, just where all the other scripts are that run the form and the calendar. Slack app's right here. And all you have to do is actually install the app in your workspace, and there's instructions on how to do that. And then your Slack app will be available. So let me walk you through the homepage. The biggest difference here between the Slack app and, say, the form and the calendar is personalization. So this Slack app it presents itself, the Slack app homepage, as your homepage. Plus, there's some general information. So what I mean by that is when it says your upcoming queues, this is your queues only, which is pretty cool. So what happens is when this page is loaded, it goes and pulls your email address and your name, runs it through the system, and the same system that the form and calendars use, and finds the queues that you took. And then whether you took them through Slack or through the form and or calendar, and it propagates them here. And it does that by email address. So let's take a look. So I've taken 3 queues, two on 7.4 and one on 7.5. This is obviously just a testing account. And one thing I just want to mention here real quick, this Slack app is running on kind of a testing beta instance. What I showed you a second ago here was our live QSmart instance. So just to clear up any confusion here, this set of information, this taken AOs, open AOs, etc., is from the live instance of QSmart that we are using in Jacksonville right now. The Slack app here, the information you're going to see presented here is on a backend beta instance, and so the information is not going to match. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you from here on out, this will be the beta instance and the Slack app that's connected with that. So the reason I tell you that is because if you look at a date and say Boondocks was reserved in one place and not the other, that's why. But when you implement the system, obviously everything will sync together. And I'll show you that in just a second. So let me get rid of this page. And let's look at the Slack app only. So I mentioned that this is your upcoming queues, and we're going to test that in just a second. And then the second thing that's presented is the next week worth of AOs. And so this is 7.2 through 7.8, as you can see here. And if you want a Q and AO that's further out than that, you click this menu, and these pages dynamically change by the size of the region. So if a region has a lot of AOs, they're going to have more than 3 pages. But let's go to the second page here and look at what's available. And I can see a list of AOs that are open and taken. In this case, all of them are open. But it would present much like this page would, where taken AOs get put up top, just like the form. Open AOs are buttons here that I can click. So if I wanted to reserve Bohica on 7/7. Let's actually do that. So this is, are you sure you want to reserve this AO on this day? Yes, confirm. So remember Bohica on 7/7. Your response has been received. So if I give the system a few minutes to update, it'll actually my choice will be reflected here, as well as in the form, excuse me, as well as in the calendar. So as you can see here, Bohica has now shown up as taken by me, which is Pink Panther. And this is just in the Slack app, but this has also been propagated throughout the whole system. So I'm going to show you that now. So if we go here to the QSmart control panel of the instance that this is running on, let's go to the form. As you can see in the form, Bohica was taken by Pink Panther. And then in the calendar, go to 7/7, Bohica was taken by Pink Panther. So one important thing I want to mention here is when I took this queue, all I did is press the name, which was Bohica, and then press confirm. I didn't have to enter any information. And that's because the app automatically takes your email address and automatically takes your F3 name from your Slack profile and puts it in the system. And so this Slack app is just another way to interact with QSmart. It's a more personalized way, in my opinion, but it's still just another way to interact with the system. So the next thing I want to cover here with QSmart is the email component. So this system sends a variety of different emails in different circumstances. So let's look at that now. So the first one I want to cover is the weekly schedule email. And this is purposely kept very simple. And it's just a simple text email, but it has a lot of information packed in there. And so PAX can sign up to get this email. So you as the admin of the system, if a PAX wants it, can add their email address to a list, and then they will get this email. And it's every Sunday morning it's sent out, and it gives the next week's worth of AOs listed. So this is just an example from about a month ago, but it lists the date, and then any AOs that are taken are just in plain text. But any AOs that are open, I actually have a pre-filled form link there. So if I click that, it would take me to the Google form with that AO selected, like I mentioned on the calendar. So this is really cool. It's broken down by day, and then if I want a general link to the blank form, I can click here. So this is really great for posting in Slack if you want to, posting in a texting thread, etc. Because all it is plain text. And the way you sign up to get that email is on the weekly AO sheet. If you scroll down kind of near the bottom here, you can get to this table here. So you would put an email address here, and that weekly schedule would get sent there. The next email that I want to talk about is when you reserve an AO, the day before the AO, you're going to get a reminder from the system saying, hey, you signed up to queue tomorrow. And so here is that email. So it says, hello, not Pink Panther. I was being funny and put my name as not Pink Panther, so that's why it says that here. But hey, not Pink Panther, this is a friendly reminder you signed up to queue an AO tomorrow. And it lists the AO name, Thunderdome, the date, the time. I can click here to get a map of the AO, and it'll show me a map of the AO. And then some helpful resources from our region. Now, the cool thing is this is all an email template that's built into the system. And so all of these inputs here are drawn from the control panel of the system. So the queue guidelines, the F3 JAX, we have our own Exicon here in Jacksonville, email, Twitter, etc., all drawn from the information that you put in the control panel. So all of this is automatically generated for you. And the last email I want to talk about is when you submit the form, you're going to get a email that looks like this. And so this is basically a summary of your form submittal. It'll have exactly what you put in there: your email address, your F3 name, and then whichever one you selected. In this case, I selected Foundry on 5/9. So this is just an example, but this is what a PAX is going to get moments after they submit the form. This is what a PAX is going to get the day before the AO is going to occur. So if it's on a Tuesday, I would have gotten this on a Monday. And then the other email that's generated very rarely, and I'm not going to even talk about this a whole lot, but it's basically a duplicate notification. If a PAX signs up for an AO within about 10 seconds of another PAX, the second one will get kicked out automatically. And that's a general overview of the email notifications within QSmart. So in conclusion, as you've seen here, QSmart is a one-stop shop for signing up to queue, for regions to keep track of their queues. It has a variety of different ways that a PAX can access it via the website, via the form, via the calendar, and now via the Slack app. I think this has already been a hit for us in Jacksonville. We are spreading to other regions and really can't wait to see where this goes. I've put a lot of work into this. I've put kind of my heart and soul into this, and I think that the project is still young. I think there's a lot of features to be added, a lot of growth to happen. So my mission is to push F3's mission forward, and I hope this tool can be a way that each individual region can do that as well. A tool to organize, a tool to implement, and reach out to me on the Nation Slack if you have any questions. I'm at Pink Panther there. And see you in the gloom.